Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, taking time out of your evening to be with us to learn more about Prenda Family. My name is Tate. I will be helping run some of the slides in the back end here, but I will also be watching your comments and questions and asking our team as they come in. So feel free to leave comments throughout, and we will get to those. But for now, I will turn it over to Kelly to kick us off.
Hey everybody, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We're excited to talk to you about Prenda and specifically about the Prenda Family option. You'll get a little bit of the history on this and kind of what we mean by Prenda. We'll be going through several speakers and I'll talk to you about that. I guess we can just show you right now. This is the lineup for tonight. You're going to hear from me just quickly at the beginning. I unfortunately am going to have to drop off, so I won't be available for most of it, but I will be here for the beginning. Really excited though to have you with Katie and Anna and also with Emily. This is a team that's been supporting parents at home with their kids. All three of these wonderful people have direct homeschool experience and have shared their gifts and passions around building out what our program and our model are. So it's going to be a great evening, and of course I'll be available as well. So let's just start with a little bit about Prenda and the story and the why. For those of you who are new to Prenda, some of you have probably heard this before. In fact, we did a webinar for parents last night, so there's a chance you heard me talking about this very recently. But I want to just tell quickly, I think it's important for people to kind of know where this comes from, in part because it could be confusing. It's like, well, what is this? Is this it's technology, is this academics? Which category should I put this in? And I'd encourage you to put it in the human category, the family category, that part of your brain, because Prenda is all about helping people become empowered learners. You'll hear this over and over again. It's our mission statement, empower learners. It's what we're all about at Prenda. And so everything that we've done is really leading up to that. You'll see specifically how. I won't steal the thunder of the rest of it, but you'll hear in kind of my story, because I got into education by accident. So I'll tell it tonight, the story through more of a homeschool lens, because I think you'll find this interesting. Maybe laugh at me like I'm sure many of my homeschool friends had been laughing at me for a very long time. I had done, a career in technology and worked for all these companies, and I'm in the software and entrepreneurship world. I start a thing at the Mesa Public Library here in Mesa, Arizona, teaching kids computer programming. And through this, I got to meet just tons of awesome families, people who are almost like a la carte selecting menu items for their children's education. Got to meet a lot of homeschoolers that were just blew me away as awesome, empowered people. They would come in and their kid would come to Code Club for a couple hours with me, but then right before that, they were, growing something in a farm or a vegetable garden, and then the next day, they're visiting a, model train situation and understanding like the history of railroad, and I would look at this and I'd see the engagement and the excitement in the eyes of these kids, and it was clear that these were learners. And so they would come and I would work with them through computer programming. And that's where a lot of the genesis for the ideas around what Prenda is were me sort of experimenting in this after school coding session with my own kids and my friends' kids and many others, many people that I didn't know. And through that process, it led to these interesting conversations as we're packing up computers and walking out, and I'm talking to these homeschool parents, and I'm asking them questions about their experience and how do they do this and how do they do that. Probably the same exact questions that if you're looking into homeschool, you've been asking these questions. And if you've been homeschooling, people are asking you these questions. What it always came down to me in the end was, that sounds so amazing. I really want these benefits for my children. And at the same time, it also feels a little hard and scary. And I didn't know if I was capable of pulling that off. I probably was in retrospect, and maybe I was living in a fear limited version, but it was interesting as things evolved with Prenda, and we got this model of micro schools worked out. I think in part having talked to so many homeschoolers in that journey, by the time I was ready to try out micro schools, it was an easy choice for my wife and I to pull our son out of school and convince some of our friends to pull their kids out of school. And pretty soon you have 7 kids and me sitting around a kitchen table in my house in Mesa, Arizona. And that was really the beginning of kind of the work on this Prenda model that you're going to learn about tonight. Obviously, we've built it. You'll hear a lot about micro schools. That's our one of our core, essence of our product. But in part, yeah, the goal here was to help these kids become empowered learners, to get some of those benefits that I had seen in other people's kids. You can see here like a photo. This is from a painting class that one of the parents organized. And this is my first class, the 7 kids that were with me in the very beginning doing Prenda. And I've stayed in touch with a lot of these kids. It's really fun to see them grow up and continue to do great things. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of the feeling of where this comes from and why. You'll see specifically like what we're doing and how we're doing it, but I want it to be connected with you to this mission of empowering learners. And I'm not sure what the next slide is. I think we're diving into the model, right? It's you, Katie, I think.
Yep, you're right. Awesome. Okay. So I'm super excited to share with you guys something that we have built over the last few years. And the first thing that you should know about Prenda is that there are 2 main branches: Prenda Micro Schools and Prenda Family. So Micro Schools is a group of kids learning in a home or in a church or in a studio or office building, 5 to 10 kids, 1 adult guide that is mentoring these kids through the Prenda program. But we also have taken that Prenda program that's working so well and we've applied it into the homeschool environment with a parent guide who's guiding their own kids. And we're super, super excited about this. It's not new. We've actually been doing Prenda Family for the last 2 years, and it's been a really beautiful experience for all of these families. But up until now, we have kind of bunched them together. And I think the big change that we're making now is that we're kind of separating them and really building out our Prenda Family program to be specifically built around people learning at home with their kids. And personally, I have always homeschooled my kids until I met Kelly, and now I've micro schooled, and then I've also homeschooled with Prenda or done the Prenda Family program. So I've kind of seen a lot of different, I've had a lot of different experiences with Prenda and homeschooling from a variety of different perspectives. And personally, I've seen that homeschooling before my kids had Prenda, there were a lot of challenges, and it was also I loved it. I really did love it. It was super, super great. But after I got my kids back home, largely due to COVID, but after they've been in this micro school and gotten this kind of Prenda philosophy deep into them, homeschooling them became really easy. And I only have 2 kids that are school aged. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I can say to them, okay, it's time for school, and they know exactly what to do, and they're very self-motivated and organized about their education now. And so I've seen that firsthand. So I'm really passionate about the Prenda Family program and super excited to share it with you. 2 more things before we move on. First, you need to know that Prenda is also the Prenda model, the learning model, there's 2 kind of flavors. There's a K through 2 flavor and a 3rd through 8th flavor. We know that younger kids need different things developmentally. They are still learning to read. There's some foundational skills that they need to learn. So we've kind of differentiated our Prenda model around around the developmental needs of the students. So keep that in mind as we go through the model, that there are certain adaptations that you'll make for kindergarten through 2nd grade kids and others for 3rd through 8th. And the last thing I want to mention here is that many of you are probably here because of COVID, and that totally makes sense, and we welcome you. I just want to say that no matter what's going on in the world, pandemic or no pandemic, Prenda is really great for kids, and we just invite you to have a really open mind and to ask yourself some deep questions about what you see as the possibilities for your children and their education, and to not just look at Prenda as maybe a COVID solution, but as a long-term learning solution for your family. So with that, we are going to kick off going into our learning model. So there are 3 main branches of our day: conquer, collaborate, and create. And before we dive into them, we're going to watch a little video that we call the day in the life of a Prenda student. And this video specifically depicts kind of what the day looks like in a micro school, but just imagine doing these same things at home with your own kids.
A Prenda Micro School is a new kind of educational environment.
When a child walks into their classroom, most of the time they'll start with conquer.
In conquer mode, when students come in, it's time to start conquer mode. They get onto their computers, they work on their conquer goals.
They go into Prenda World, that's the name of our software, and then they'll see their goals page.
Each student sets their own goal for their learning for that day.
And then they'll have a little meeting with their peers
where the kids will gather and say out loud what their goals are. This is what I'm going to accomplish today. Facilitated by an adult, but not driven by them. This is led by children.
It sets them up for a life of being able to know, like, when I set a goal today, I'm going to work my hardest to get to it.
So then they get going. They decide what they want to work on.
The kids will work at their own pace.
They can choose if they want to work in math first or reading first. This is where you see kids owning their education.
When a child is stuck, they'll get up and go find someone else in the class that does know the answer. They get out of their chair and help each other.
And then at the end, they have a little debrief where they talk about, did they meet their goals? And if they didn't, what could they do next time?
Sometimes they're really in the grips of, fighting this. I love those moments because this is where kids have to dig deep and they have to find that they truly are capable of overcoming repeated failure and accomplishing their goal.
At Prenda, the second part of our day is called collaborate.
This is a face-to-face group interaction that involves everyone.
Activities that we've designed specifically to enhance their abilities to communicate with each other.
Socratic discussion.
Debate.
Dive into a historical concept.
Typically, you have a student leader who gives everyone assignments, and then after everyone's had time to research their topic, then they come together and they have a whole discussion.
Sharing, debating, discussing.
The whole purpose of that period of time is them learning to interact socially in a healthy way.
To be able to communicate how they feel about something with compassion and respect.
Create mode is the final portion of the day.
They take all of the things that they've learned theoretically in Conquer and they apply them.
It's called create because they're going to have a product at the end.
It's all project-based learning.
They've made a movie.
Writing a biography about someone that they know.
Or they've made a diorama.
Engineering apparatus to protect an egg when you drop it.
They can create their own project.
And then they can actually share it with other classmates. It helps create purpose in students' learning.
Our mission is empower learners.
That's what we get to focus on every day.
What gets me really excited is when I go into a micro school and I see kids who are happy.
It's been truly astonishing to see this fire light in the eyes of so many children.
The one most powerful evidence I see that what we're doing is working is that kids are happy to go to school.
Love seeing all of those happy kids in those micro schools. It's really inspiring and really rewarding to watch a child figure out who they are and how they want to engage in the world. And the first, so obviously this is going to look different with just your kids, but we're really working hard to build this program to give you a lot of support and also a lot of customization, because we know every family is different, every student is different. So there's already a lot of autonomy and choice and like specialization that we make for our micro schools. And what we want is to offer even more of that to Prenda Family. So let's dive into Conquer. The first thing that kids do, and you can, as Prenda Family, you can do this in any order. You can choose to do Conquer some days and collaborate some days. Like, you don't have to fit into any box. Like, you think about what works for your family, and you can take what we've built and change it. You can stick to our guidelines. There's a lot of flexibility here. So as we go through this, just keep that in mind. So the first part of their day is called Conquer, and this starts with a quick goals meeting where they're using the Prenda World software that we've built to kind of organize their academic day. I like to call this part of our software kind of like the prefrontal cortex. of the child's learning. So kids, they have a hard time with organization and holding themselves accountable, and that's why we get into these cycles with our children where there's kind of fights where the adult is forcing the kid to get things done and stay on task and hold them accountable, and that's damaging for our relationships with our kids. So that's something you'll see a lot with homeschool and homeschool burnout, is that it's just taxing on relationships. So we use this technology to hold all of those goals and hold kids accountable and help them become the owners of their own education, so that you as the parent don't have to play that role. So it's super empowering to parents and kids, and we're super excited about it. So in Conquer, they'll be working on a computer. If you are, I should mention, there's kind of two ways to access the Prenda Family program. One is through our charter partner, and this is mostly in Arizona right now. So in Arizona, this is a tuition-free option that your family can enjoy, and we're working hard to get this same setup in other states and countries, which we'll talk about more later. You can also access this anywhere in the world via a private pay model. So we'll go into that later. But every student will have a computer. If you're at home and you don't have enough computers and you're doing the private pay model, where you might not have, in the private pay model, we ask that you provide your own computer. So you might not have enough computers for all of your kids, but you can use tablets and any sort of device you have, and they don't all have to be working on this at the same time. So you can kind of be flexible around that. But during Conquer time, all of the academics like math, reading, writing, grammar, spelling, all of those things that you would typically be taught in school, we connect students to a suite of really powerful educational online tools that teach all of anything that you would expect to learn in school. All of our curriculum is standards aligned and would pass at any public school for really, really solid, robust curriculum. And you as the parent get to look at our choices for these online tools and decide what works best for your child and connect them with that tool. So there's a lot of flexibility here. The key about Conquer is that instead of delivering a lesson every day, like an adult delivering a lesson that may or may not be what the child needs to learn, they might be bored, they might not already know that, it might be over their head, they might not be ready for that. Through these tools, these online tools, we can assess exactly what the kids know and what they don't know, and then keep them working at their learning frontier every single day. And when you are working at your learning frontier, you're learning things that are perfectly in your zone of proximal development, and they're the right next things for you to learn. So keeping kids in that zone day after day is really, really healthy for their academic progress. It keeps them challenged but not frustrated. But there is a lot of frustration actually, which is actually a great thing for kids. So we're excited about all the challenges that they're going to meet in Conquer. That's why our little guy there is a mountain, because we talk about climbing the mountain and accepting challenges and not being afraid to fail. And our biggest catchphrase here that we try to teach the kids is never be afraid to be a beginner. We teach growth mindset and try to help inspire every student to be excited when they find something that they don't know, because once you find something you don't know, you can learn it. And there's a lot of joy and happiness in that. And all of our programs are mastery based, so kids don't move on until they've mastered concepts. So with mastery based education, you avoid learning gaps. For example, in a different model of education, the teacher teaches something for 3 weeks, you take a test on it, you understand some of it, and then the class moves on. So whatever percentage of that information that you didn't understand, you still don't understand it and you're not being taught it anymore. So this creates learning gaps, and kids are just kind of pushed and pushed and pushed until their foundation's not super strong. So we stick with kids, we work with them where they are every single day to fill in and avoid learning gaps. So that's why we always teach for mastery. And Anna has a super awesome story and experience. Anna's been doing Prenda Family with her kids all year, and is going to share kind of some insight into what this really looks like in the Prenda Family environment.
You'll have to excuse me. I have a fussy 2-month-old on my lap, so we'll do the best that we can.
Prenda Family, everyone.
This is family. It's real. A couple of things. When I started, we've actually been doing this 1.5 years, and my daughter, who was in 3rd grade when we started, had some reading issues. So for her, for Conquer, her reading time a couple of times a week was spent with a reading tutor over Zoom, which was amazing and helped her a lot with her reading. She grew in leaps and bounds that first semester that we started Prenda, because she was right where she needed to be, and it was amazing. The same daughter is very strong-willed and struggled with the technology. She was about the middle of May, I think we were planning on going to the end of May. She just said, I'm not doing the computer anymore and you can't make me, I'm done. And just opted out. So I spent all summer trying to figure out how we can work this without a computer. She ended up, took the summer off and was fine in the fall to do what was needed. But the point of that is, if something's not working for you, we do have great faith in the learning tools that we provide, but the beauty of Prenda is that we can be flexible and help you find what works for you. So if something's not working and you've tried, and we don't want your child to lose their love of learning over anything that we are doing. So talk to us and we can help you work through that.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Anna. It's so interesting to see everyone's different experience, and I just really believe that every child is different and every situation is different, and kids change over time. We need to be flexible and adapting to those things. So there's structure and help and support here, but there's also a lot of flexibility, and our goal is to support you as a homeschooling parent and to support your child as an empowered learner. So that's our whole goal. Okay, let's move on to collaborate. So the second part of the day is called collaborate. And the whole goal of this time is to interact face to face, to learn how to listen, to learn how to express yourself, to learn how to problem solve as a group, and to engage in ways that are super meaningful and help develop like your whole person. So all of these things that we give you like a big list. I call them learning patterns actually. So there's all of these patterns and activities that you can do that we've built, and then they're all designed to be kind of like an application of the things you might be learning in Conquer. So for example, we do math application problems where there's like a math problem, it's not just like an equation, but a more built out, interesting problem to work on together. So kids that are at different levels, lots of you will be educating multiple ages in a group. And there's some super powerful things that can happen when you have younger children working with older children. And there's some really great mentorship that happens, and some empathy and nurturing that's built in the older kids. It's really wonderful. So this time of the day is social and fun. And the whole goal is to use academics. Okay, so I was going through math. We do math application. This is where you'll see science projects, history explorations, where we'll explore different areas of the world and different people and events and inventions, and then we'll do research projects about them and create presentations and then present together to share what we've learned. And it's a really powerful thing to do with all of your kids. And you might find that you might be thinking, well, I only have one child. How do I run a debate or a discussion? You know, like everything's a debate. Sometimes at home it feels like that, doesn't it? We are in the process of building out a whole community for Prenda Family where you can connect through our Prenda Family parent community. You can find other Prenda Family families and connect with them. These could be national, international, or they can be in your area, and you can plan collaborate activities with them. So this could look like something that you do over Zoom a few times a week if you want to do a discussion or a debate, or a poetry tea time. Lots of different creative things that happen in Collaborate can be done online via Collaborate groups, and we can help make connecting with those people in your community or abroad really easy. Another thing you can do is get together with other Prenda families in your area, and you could even set up like a mini co-op. Like everyone could do Conquer time at home, and then maybe if I was hosting that week, all the kids would come over to my house and we would do Collaborate and Create together. And then another day, another mom or dad would host at their house, and we could kind of switch around like that. So our kids could still get together in person. So that would be super fun. And all of those things are being built, and our team is working tirelessly to listen and to hear what the needs of this community are and to build for that. So if you have an idea or feedback for us, like, we are all ears, and we will do anything we can to build things that support you. Anna, do you want to share your Collaborate experience?
Yeah. So this was that same, right after we started in November of 2018, and had a really sweet experience. One day we were doing mystery science, which is the science program that we use. And somewhere during the process of the lesson, this is not what the lesson was about, but the question was posed, can you knock over a heavy book with dominoes? So my kids are watching this lesson and they thought, I wonder if you could. And they paused the lesson and they ran off and they grabbed our dominoes and they grabbed the heaviest book they could find. And they got to work and tried to figure it out, and it didn't work. So they tried something different and it didn't work. And they tried it several times. I think it was probably 6 or 7 times before they finally got it to work. But they were so thrilled and excited that they had accomplished this challenge that had never occurred to them was even possible. And the thing that I loved about this that really spoke to me was that we had the flexibility and the freedom to take that interest, that curiosity, that burning question, and run with it. And we didn't have to say, oh, I'm sorry, it's time to move on to something else. But we could follow what they were interested in. And I think they learned more from this impromptu science experiment than they would have from anything else we could have done that day. It was beautiful.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Something that we aim for during these Collaborate activities is that they're all like, we give you the activities, like the framework for how to do a history exploration or how to do a math application problem. But the students actually fill all of these, all of the frameworks, all of the patterns with their own interests. So you'll see your kids getting really interested in World War II or ancient Egypt, like lots of different topics. And you're totally free to just chase those passions and expose your kids to the world in a way that is super interesting and exciting to them because they're driving it. And a quick homeschooling tip here: the more choice and autonomy you can bear to hand to your kids, the happier, in my experience, the happier you'll be as a homeschooling parent, because with every child has a will inside of them to achieve and control and drive their life. And as soon as you give that to them and then become kind of more of a consultant to them and ask them questions and coach them and mentor them and set a really good example for them, but let them choose, you'll see a lot of that resistance that if you've been homeschooling, maybe you've seen in the past, or if you haven't homeschooled, maybe you're worried about seeing. A lot of that resistance falls away, and we see some really beautiful things happen in families. So let's move on to the third part of our day, called Create. So during Create, this is our project-based learning time. So in Prenda World, you will see our project-based learning library. And in this space in Prenda World, there are hundreds of different projects that your kids can do. And they're separated into 4 kind of buckets or topics. So the first one is Discover, and all of the projects in Discover are going to be about history, geography, people, events, writing biographies, things like that. In Invent, it's all about science, technology, engineering, and math. And then Perform, it's all about art and performance and poetry and anything that's going to be more of like an artistic expression will fall into Perform. And then Become is projects that help kids learn how to set goals or kind of project themselves into the future and evaluate what they want their life to be like, what kind of person they want to become. That's why we call it Become. And also kind of healthy life habits. Like my favorite one is we teach about like Tibet and Buddhist monks, kind of that culture. And then they're challenged to develop a habit of meditation for a week and to keep a journal about it. We also teach entrepreneurship and things like that here. So we're really excited about Create Mode, and this is where you just see kids come alive. So all of these aren't meant to be just assignments that you kind of phone in. Like, the kids are really awesome at digging into the projects, and you can spend a day on a project or you can spend a month on a project. You can do a project by yourself. You could do a project as a whole family. You could do a project with one of your siblings. You could do a project with someone else in your neighborhood that's also doing Prenda Family. They're like, the sky's the limit here. The point is to be creative and to dive deep and to lose yourself in a passion or an interest, to gain a wide exposure to the world and to ask yourself the question, what am I interested in? What makes me excited? And to dive deep into any topic that makes kids feel excited. And we've built these projects so there are embedded within challenges that reinforce all of their Conquer skills. So like things like writing essays, or demonstrating mathematical principles, or building kind of engineering apparatuses. So they are not just like foofy, have fun projects. They're very purposeful. They all have a purpose and specific requirements that are required to call that project done. So we're super excited about Create. And I think, Emily, you have a great story about a cool Create project that your son did. Do you want to share that?
Yes, I would love to. So in our learning, my son found a personal hero that was a surprise to me. He loves George Washington, and he wanted to dive deep. I mean, my son wanted to know where each battle was that we read about. He wanted to know, he wanted arrows pointed to where he went next. He was so into strategy, and I'm talking about a 6-year-old here. I mean, but this 6-year-old loved and was just so incredibly passionate about the Revolutionary War. So a Create project that we did is, and this was him just excited about this, wanting to dive deep. He wanted to create this battle diorama of the final Battle of Yorktown, and he wanted to make clay figurines to represent George Washington and to represent General Cornwallis, and he wanted a clay figurine to represent Lafayette and the Navy ships and the British troops. And we found a recipe together. He made the recipe for this clay. We found some toothpicks for weapons to put with the soldiers. He painted it with his own paint. It was very creative and done very well. Little pieces kept falling off, because he's 6, and we just had to keep gluing them back on. And we took apart a box and covered it, and he drew the map of this battle, and he arranged these figures on the map. And afterwards, we gathered together as a family, and he presented his Create project to us. And he told us all about the Battle of Yorktown and General Cornwallis and Washington's strategy. And this is a 6-year-old who just found a hero that he loves because he's passionate about freedom. And anyway, it was just beautiful. And now, since that Create project, he has a framed picture of General George Washington above his bed. And he doesn't want anything up on the wall besides him. He just loves him so much. So I hope that gives you an idea of how exciting these Create projects can be, that when you let your students just dive into these, they find their passions, and it just becomes a part of who they are.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. I will also say that built into Prenda World, once the kids get the hang of Create projects and they're doing really quality work, you can actually turn on as the guide the possibility for them to create their own project. And this is a really fun experience for the kids to actually plan out a project and set a goal for themselves and hold themselves accountable to it. And then they can also submit that to us, and then we can review it, and we can make it part of the Prenda Create project-based learning library that all of the kids in Prenda see. So it's a super fun way for them to contribute to the community. And you'll also see kids writing, doing these Create projects, doing a lot of writing. And then we have a Prenda showcase where they can submit their writing or any sort of Create project and have it reviewed by our writing guru and go back and forth and get feedback on their writing for a little bit. And then they can have it accepted to be posted on the showcase that everyone in Prenda sees. So it's really fun to experience the joy of homeschooling on a small scale, like within your own family, but then also be a part of something bigger where you have the support and help and community and peer interaction that can be hard to find in most homeschooling programs. So we're super excited about this program, Conquer, Collaborate, Create. We also recommend at the end of the day having kind of a wrap-up session that we call a struggle and success meeting, where everyone goes around and talks about, and you would do this as well, totally participate as the parent. You talk about your greatest success and your greatest struggle, and everyone claps after you share your struggle, not even your success. We're proud of you for your success, but what we really want to focus on is that you did hard things that day, and that you don't have, that there's no shame wrapped up in struggle. Like there's celebration around struggle instead of shame. And that is huge to reinforce this idea of growth mindset, that you are not stuck with where you are, but you can work hard and make a difference in who you're becoming academically and socially and mentally, emotionally. All of the parts of a person can progress here. And yeah, so those are the 3 modes of the day. And we're going to turn it over to Emily to talk about our Prenda core values.
Great. So our Prenda core values goes back to our mission in Prenda, which is to empower learners. And our Prenda core values is like the mechanism of how we do that. And I feel like it's very telling of Prenda and our culture is that our first one is always start with heart. And this is especially powerful and meaningful in Prenda Family, I believe, because with Start with Heart, we want to look at children and see them as people who have greatness in them. We as a parent, you'll have this opportunity to nurture like lifelong relationships with your own children. We really stress the importance of connection, like connect with your kids, incorporate that in your schedule of the day. I have found that as a homeschooling mom, I can get lost in the details of like check boxing, you know, my son has done this, he's done that, check, we're done for the day. And I forget all about that connection. And we have found in Prenda that when that connection is there, everything else goes smoothly. Katie has this wonderful, she shared this wonderful analogy of a mountain and how we talk about let's climb your mountain, let's reach the top and reach your future self. And what my analogy is to this is that when I'm driving up a mountain, it's good for me to gear down so that my car has more power. And I feel like when you start with heart first, like when you make sure that that connection is there with your children, that's almost as if you're gearing down, because everything else goes so much easier and smoother, and you're not revving your internal engine of trying to get everything done so much. It's just this magic glue that works, and it nurtures your lifelong relationship. So start with heart. We really believe that in Prenda. Dare greatly. We know, absolutely know that every person, every child is inherently great. And we invite them to set big goals. We invite them to take big risks. And children who, going back to Start with Heart, children who feel securely connected with their parents feel like they can take these risks. Like, I can take a risk and fail because I'm connected to my mom, and my mom or dad love me no matter what, and I can take risks. We talk about growth mindset. We talk about how if we never made mistakes, that means we're never trying anything new. And just like Katie said, like, we celebrate mistakes. We celebrate daring greatly. We want our kids to feel like they can do that. Figure it out. This is all about growing their confidence. I have learned this as a homeschooling mom, that one thing that would really sort of bog me down is that I would own my children's learning frontier problems. Like, if my son was struggling with math, I would own that, and I would just be like, oh no, he's struggling with math. And I would just start to worry and stress, like, is this right for him? Is this, that, and that? And while that might be good, in Prenda, our first question that we want to ask is, what have you tried lately? What tools have you used? Do you want to know what other kids do when they feel frustrated with their math problems? And it's called, we call it lovingly giving the problem back to the student in a loving way, because we want them to build confidence that they can solve their problems, like they can figure it out. I can't think of a better lesson, like a better confidence builder to give children, to know, like, I trust that you can figure this out. I will be here to help you, but I'm going to cheer you on, and we're going to do this together. And just holding that space for them and listening, but lovingly give that problem back. So figure it out. Foundation of trust. We trust that you as the parents are experts in your children. We trust that when that connection is there, your intuition is right on. And we want to hear your feedback. And just like Anna said before, we want you to know and to feel like you can adapt this to a way that meets your child exactly where they are. So total foundation of trust there. And then learning over comfort. We call this where your child's learning frontier is. And me as a nerdy homeschool mom, we read a lot of stories about frontier people and what they had to do to clear the land. And if you think about that, if you think about the word frontier, there's problems to overcome. There's things you've never seen before, right? This land is new to you. It's uncomfortable, but we celebrate that in Prenda. We celebrate this idea of, oh, this is uncomfortable. This is great. That means our brain is growing and learning. So going back to that growth mindset. And everything, like I said, everything is just this beautiful package that goes towards empowering learners.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. I love our Prenda core values because they're not just posted on a wall somewhere. Like, we use them and live by them all the time, and such great life lessons and applications. Thanks for sharing that. That was great. All right, let's move on to some details. So we've kind of seen an overview of what a day looks like, what the model looks like. So now we're going to dive a little deeper into some of the details. So there's a lot of flexibility around the daily schedule. So in a micro school, we kind of set, the kids are there for 4 hours or 5 hours, depending on their age, every day. But in a homeschool setting, you can spread that out. We recommend that your kids, if they're in kindergarten through second grade, spend about 16 to 20 hours doing academic or educational activities throughout the week. So what that means is not just like time on the computer doing math, but collaborative activities, creative activities, and also educational enrichment activities like music, sports, cooking with your family, anything that you deem educationally like worthwhile to that student. You can log that as a student as an educational hour in your child's experience. So let's touch a little bit on the differences between charter, like a publicly funded option, the way to access Prenda, and then this idea of private pay. So essentially what happens if you are, I'm going to talk a little bit about Arizona, but this goes for, we're working out these relationships across the country. So if you're not in Arizona, don't worry. There are options for you and a good future for Prenda in your state. So if you are in Arizona and you're enrolling through our charter partner, this is a tuition-free option for you, and we will provide all of the learning tools, access to our suite of online learning tools, computers, hands-on manipulatives, workbooks, all sorts of things that support you in your homeschooling journey and match our Prenda program. And then if you are outside of Arizona or outside of the United States of America, even you can access all of these same tools and the same Prenda community through a private pay model right now. There's a $200 enrollment fee per student, and then it's a $100 per student per month subscription to have access to all of the things that we've talked about tonight. And you still get all of the hands-on manipulatives and everything that comes with the program. Here we go. There we go. Good. Curriculum. So this includes access to all of our online learning tools. There are literally thousands of, we call them ed tech tools. And it is so stressful as a parent to sift through those and to sift through every homeschool pedagogy and every system and program and workbook and online tool. It's just completely overwhelming, especially if you're new to homeschooling. So we have scoured the whole world, pulled all of the best things for you, used we have lots of experience homeschooling and building curriculum, and we really feel like we have a pretty good recipe for how kids learn. So we really stand by these tools in this process. That being said, there's totally room for adaptation and flexibility, like we mentioned earlier. So for the Prenda Family program, you get access to all the online learning tools, workbooks, manipulatives, everything. We can go more. We have those things listed out elsewhere, so we can connect you with that information. Training and mentoring. Okay, this is a huge piece of what you're getting when you sign up for Prenda. When you sign up for a normal homeschooling curriculum or program or plan, you get a workbook usually that has some like introductory pages of things you can read to kind of orient you. But with Prenda, you get a huge community of other moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and families that are doing this together as well. And you also have complete access to our core Prenda team and our experience and coaching and mentoring if you want it. So instead of just kind of throwing you to the wolves before you enroll your student or sign up through the private pay model, we put you through a week-long training. You can actually go at your own pace, but it usually takes people about a week. And it goes through the whole Prenda model. It explains how to set everything up, explains the mindsets, the philosophies, tools to teach growth mindset, kind of to help you take this whole new look at education so you don't accidentally just start modeling what you've seen school as elsewhere into your own home. That's not what Prenda is. Prenda is super different. So we put you through this wonderful, life-changing, honestly, training that can help you build that foundation in your mind and in your heart for what this could possibly mean for your family and the culture of your family and how your home feels. It's like so much bigger than curriculum, you know, it's a whole method. And we also provide ongoing mentoring. We have this amazing mentoring resource that helps you learn how to coach your kids, mentor them, inspire them, connect with them. We've worked with a parenting coach to curate this wonderful kind of like course almost in connected parenting. And we're not trying to tell you how to parent your kids. You can do whatever you want, but this is a resource that's available to you when you are part of the Prenda community, and it is super powerful and inspiring. I've been using it with my kids last year, and my home is wildly different than it, in a good way, than it was before having access to all of this mentoring and training. So we're super excited about that. We already talked about the Prenda community, and you also have the option of adaptive diagnostic testing. So let's talk about testing for a second. That's like a hot topic in education, and I totally get why there's a lot of pushback around testing, but the way that Prenda approaches this is like super gentle, no stress, no anxiety, no pressure at all. And the whole goal is to not compare students to other students. That is not helpful information. The thing that we want to know is, what does the student know already, and what is the thing that they're ready to learn next? So we're just trying to answer that question. So if you are signing up through our charter partner, your student will be asked to take an adaptive diagnostic test, and I will go into that, and then also benchmark tests two more times during the year. So like at the end of the first semester, they'll take it again to show the growth, and then they'll take it at the end of the year again to see if what we, you know, in those benchmarking tests, what the question that we're trying to answer is what we're doing for this child working? Are they moving forward? It's mostly just math and reading that we look at. Even though I'm a big believer in the idea that there are many kinds of intelligences, like musical intelligence and kinesthetic intelligence and artistic intelligence. But for these diagnostic tests, we just look at math and reading. So if you are doing the private pay model, you have an option. You can opt into doing this. We pay for it for you. It's included in your package, but it's not mandatory if you're doing private pay. And as parents, you get full access to how your students did. And I want to point out the adaptive and diagnostic piece. It's not a comparative tool. Usually when you do standardized testing, like all third graders take the same test and then compare,
no matter how you do yours compared to other kids. But these tests actually change. So if a student gets an answer incorrect, they'll get an easier question. And if they get something right, then the test will scale up for them. So we're finding exactly topic by topic what that student knows. Then we can look at that data, review it with parents, review it with students even, give them full access and transparency around their strengths and weaknesses, and help them own their own education, set goals, decide where they want to be at the end of the semester, at the end of the year, and help them break that into a daily plan during Conquer to get them where they want to be. So that's the story behind testing. And if you are enrolled in our charter partner, we do ask that you take the end of year state test. If you're private pay, you do not have to do that, except for, can you go to the next slide, Tate? Okay, yeah, no, we're good. We'll, I was gonna go off on a tangent and this saved me, so thank you, Tate. Okay, so let's talk about how to get started. This is perfect. So if you are excited about this, you can go to prendaschool.com, and there's a little a page about Prenda Family, and you can just reach out to us there and we can help you get started. We'll talk to you on the phone, we'll give you more information about it, answer all of your questions, and then go over how to enroll or how to sign up and to get started. And we are launching this program on July 13th, so just like a week or so away. And then it will be available to the whole world. So we're super excited about that. Okay, this is where I was going before. So if you are homeschooling in a different state that's not Arizona, so in Arizona, if you're signing up for a charter partner, you are not homeschooling. Even if you do Prenda Family, you're not technically counted as a homeschooler. So you don't need a homeschool affidavit, and you're an enrolled student essentially. But if you're doing Prenda Family outside of Arizona, where we don't have charter partners yet, and doing the private pay model, you'll need to look into your state's homeschooling laws and see if they require anything specific. If you need to report data on your kids to your state, or if there are certain hour requirements for your state for learning, or you just need to look into those things. Prenda is going to be a good fit no matter what they are, but you should be aware of those. And this is a great website. There are lots of websites out there that you can go to find this information, but this is a really easy one where you just click on your state. It gives you a summary of the rules and laws there, and we can help you. If you have questions about that, we can work together on that. And the last thing we're going to talk about here is that, like we mentioned before, we have a charter partner in Arizona right now, and Prenda's still super new, so we are still establishing these charter partner relationships in other states. So if you are in a different state and want to connect us to someone that you know that could help us build a relationship within your state, then we can bring publicly funded Prenda to your entire state, which is super powerful. We have multiple states getting started and doing different things, and we're trying to kind of get our toes wet in other states. But if you want to help us with this, to help bring Prenda to your state and to empower even more learners, you can reach out to Rochelle on our team at Rochelle@prenda.co. And chat with her about how to get a publicly funded option for Prenda in your state. Question time, the best time of a webinar.
Yes, so we will open it up for questions. I know there's been a lot coming in, so I will ask those, but if you have any more, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Let's see here. The first one, Jessica asked, do you provide record keeping, or does each family have to file PSA? What is the cost associated with Prenda if you're in CA? So you touched on the cost, but what about record keeping?
Yeah, so that's something that will depend on each state. So within our Prenda software, there's a calendar where you can log your hours, and then we call it bonus time, where you can be really specific about what those hours are spent doing, if they're reading or doing a science project or doing a history, like if they want to know how many hours or minutes you're spending doing each topic, that can all be recorded in Prenda World. There were multiple parts of that question.
No,
that.
mostly the reporting portion.
Yeah, so it's built in, but that might vary by state to state, so we can work with you on that.
All right, thank you. Jessica asked, and I know you mentioned, Katie, that we are relaunching or launching the program on July 15th. I think it was the 15th.
13th, yeah.
But kind of a relaunch. So she was asking, how many students have we currently enrolled in the Prenda Family program?
Oh, that's a good idea, or a good question. I don't know the exact number. I think it's like ballpark 1 to 200. So that's just been like participating in over the last year, but we are, again, like separating it out of micro schools, having a whole new community, doing this whole collaborate piece and mentoring piece just for Prenda Family. So it is kind of like a big refresh starting later this month.
And on top of that, we don't want to say that Prenda Family students or Prenda Family guides couldn't do field trips or events with the Prenda micro schools. What we're doing, our purpose and intent with this is to create our own Prenda Family community where we feel like we have a community where we have other guides that understand us, that can give us tips, that have been there, can be really empathic with us, that kind of thing.
Great, thank you both. Ashley asks, I love the Prenda philosophy. Could you speak to the name and how it was chosen or what it stands for or the significance of the meaning?
Yeah, does anyone else want to take this one?
I can. I know the answer to that one.
Great.
I think there's several reasons why we called our school Prenda, but if you know Spanish, aprender means to learn. And so aprender, we just took off and the R and we have Prenda. And then Prenda in Portuguese means gift. So basically it's just like learning is a gift and learning is a joy. And we want to reinstill that in our students.
Great, thank you, Emily. A great question here. They ask, is the private pay option month to month or does it require a long-term contract?
Month to month.
That was easy. So Daisy asks partially a question regarding micro schools. She says she's feeling like there might not be any close to you. If you are interested in micro school, I will say we're uploading new ones or new guides are coming online every single day. So, if you don't find one close to you, be patient. There likely will be one soon, or you could become a guide yourself if that's an option. But she does ask if she starts the process in Prenda Family and a micro school opportunity becomes available or they become interested, would they be able to make the switch mid-year?
Yeah. It's an easy switch.
Another simple answer. Similarly related, Caroline asked, can enrollment happen anytime during the school year?
Yes. These are short answers. This is easy.
No, it's great.
15 good questions, but
Yep. And you can also, I will say, you can also school year round. So when we talked about hours, we suggested that you did 16 to 20 hours for the younger kids and 20 to 25 hours per week for the older kids. That's based on a 36-week school year, as if you were like following the schedule of the district around you, the school district around you. Most school districts operate on a 36-week year. But if you wanted to school year round, which many homeschoolers do, you would just do less hours each week, and you can break it up however you want.
Thank you for that added input. Kiana asks, I completed a homeschool program with my daughter this year because she missed the age cutoff for kindergarten in our district last year. She will not turn 6 until September. Will I sign her up as a kindergartner?
That will be up to you. You could do either one if you wanted her, I believe. I'm assuming this is an Arizona parent, but I don't know. So if she's 6 in September, then she would technically be say that again?
She says she wouldn't qualify for first grade in her own district, but she completed the kinder homeschool program.
Yeah, so you could, if you wanted to enroll her in first grade, that would be fine. Our cutoff is September 1st, I think, for kids starting school, but we could talk more about that so I really understand the situation.
All right. Eric asked, can you speak to the kindergarten curriculum and how much is digital versus analog?
Such a good question. So that's one of the big differentiations between the K-2 program and the 3rd through 8th program, is that these kids like are on computers significantly less time because we're super aware of their developmental needs. And we're really selective in the tools that they use on the computer. They're not overly gamified. They're not overly stimulating or like flashy. We're like really careful that all of these tools are really calming even. So we're aware of that, but they do use them for Conquer Time. There's a math program and a literacy program, and then also a thing that we built called Treasure Hunt Reading, where there's a workbook and they're learning how to write and letter sounds and reading from the ground up. But that's a workbook, and then they watch videos, but it's not like they're interacting with the screen. It's mostly like physical, and they're reading real books and finding letters in real books, and you're reading out loud to them. So there's a good balance there. And then for Collaborate and Create, those are all pretty much hands-on. You might watch a video or something together, but they're not like tuned into a screen individually. There's a lot of hands-on art. We do nature study, composer study, music study. Kids are doing like show and tell, like presenting things, like lots of interaction and hands-on thing. We give you a big math manipulatives kit, math activities to do with those manipulatives. So there's lots of hands-on things.
Imagination Station, where they're taking recyclables and creating their own inventions to solve problems, crazy problems that we give them, like the floor is turned to lava, create something to cross the floor. So very hands-on. And what's really great is that you, as the guide in Prenda Family, can really limit that. If that's like a concern for you, then you can just say, okay, Conquer Time, we're going to be on the computer, we're going to get our Conquer goals. The rest of the day, we're going to nature study, read poems, create inventions, go out and serve. So many great hands-on real life opportunities in the K-2 program.
And lots of that stuff also transfers to the 3rd through 8th program. Like the kids are not computer zombies. That's a big concern that we have. They use it as a tool. We talk about how a computer is like a stapler. It's a tool to accomplish something, and it's a means to an end. Like I use a computer not to be entertained, but I use it to learn. And we help kids learn how to do that responsibly. And we're really aware of like screen addiction and in the same way that a stapler can hurt you if you use it wrong, computers can be dangerous if you use them wrong too. So we talk a lot about computer safety and using things responsibly.
Thank you for all that input. Next question here for Conquer Mode. Do you do anything to facilitate asking other students for help as seen in the videos? Seems like it would be hard to do over Zoom.
Yeah, so asking others for help in the family setting would be like your siblings. If you were doing it, if you wanted to ask someone for help in person, we could work out like during COVID, we've had a lot of creative uses of Zoom and video calls where some guides have chosen to like open a Zoom room that they give their students the link to, and then like they can pop in and like talk to each other if they need help or something like that. So that would be creative use of collaboration that you would just work out with like who you wanted to be in that group. Could totally do that. That's a good idea. We should write that one down, ladies.
Yes. A couple questions here regarding the cost. I'll actually put back up the slide in case you did join late so you can see that. So the first one from Wendy, she asked, is it no longer a flat cost per child for Prenda Family? And then Lena asked, did we share the costs? They were doing Prenda Home since COVID and would like to continue and not having funding in Canada where they're at. So I'll put that back up, but Katie, do you want to talk to the costs?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a $200 startup fee per student, and then every month you'd pay $100 per student. And it is a flat rate per student. It's just $100. So And this is an introductory price that we're trying this year. We're trying to be super generous, so the most number of kids can access this awesome program.
And we're also considering and hoping for in the future being able to offer scholarships as well.
Totally. And then Prenda at Home. Yeah, so Prenda at Home was a scaled down version of Prenda that we offered during COVID for free. And so this Prenda Family program is replacing Prenda at Home and expanding your access and community and training and mentoring, like really wrapping you up in the full Prenda experience. So Prenda at Home will come to an end, but this will replace that. But if you do transition from Prenda at Home, you can still maintain all of your students' data. Like you don't have to have a new Lexia account and a new Khan Academy account or whatever tools you are using. All of that data will be consistent. You can keep going with your progress.
Thank you. A couple questions regarding charter partners. One was, do we have any charters in California? And then also, who are our charter partners?
Yeah, we can go into some of that. We don't have charter partners in California. We're working there. Funding in other states is going to be really creative. Other states have really good tax credit programs where you can get something like Prenda funded. I think in California, there's actually homeschooling funds that you can qualify for, and then you can use those funds to fund part of Prenda. I don't know how much money that is personally. And these are all really good questions for Rochelle, who is over all of that. So I'm just going to actually just punt on that and ask her to contact Rochelle to get all of the details so I don't say anything inaccurate.
Sounds good. And again, you can contact Rochelle at prenda.co. I think I shared it in the chat as well. Daisy asks, if I do Prenda Family and have an 8 and a 4-year-old, though my 4-year-old wouldn't be enrolled, could I still use the materials and curriculum for her?
That's a great question. So we are still working. I don't know if this is, if you're doing private pay, absolutely. You can just pay for her to participate in it. We've tried to do preschool type options like this before, and it's been complicated. I'm not saying absolutely not, but I'm saying currently we don't have like a system to support that, but I'm happy to talk more about it. So I'm gonna give that one a maybe.
Something else with that also is, even if they're not directly signed up for the curriculum, so many of these activities can be done with a wide age group. So if you're working on a service project, bring your 4-year-old in, have him or her work on it too. Yeah. If you're playing a game, do it together. There are ways to include them, absolutely.
So the only, actually, now that I'm thinking about this more, our treasure hunt reading program for the littles who are learning to read, we're launching in August, the 2.0 version of this. We've been doing our beta program this last year and gotten a lot of good feedback. So we're going to release the program, and it's actually going to be free for anyone in the whole world to use. So this is over 100 videos of Safari Kate teaching how to read and how to write. It's geared towards kids that have reading issues, dyslexia, meant to be support there. And there's a 250-page workbook that goes with it, goes lesson by lesson, video by video, handwriting, phonemic awareness, all of the things that you need to be a successful reader. And we're going to post that on the Treasure Hunt website, and you'll be able to download that workbook for free. So you can get it, you can print it out yourself. It's kind of long, but you can download the file, bring it to a printer where you are, and your 4-year-old could have access to that. So the only real limitations that we're talking about here are access to the other online tools, which are available to anyone. So you could just pick a tool for her and you would just fund that privately. And that would be really the only piece that you'd be missing.
I also want to add something that I've done with my 4-year-old is with the math manipulatives, there's like things that they can use that they can do. Like we have the shapes, the plastic shapes. And what I do when my olders are doing Conquer is I've printed off free printables of animals that he can like match up the plastic shapes with and make animals, and I've laminated them, and so he feels like he's in conquer mode with his older siblings because he's right there along with them, working with his manipulatives, working on his pages. So there's ways you can work that where you can just like easily integrate your younger ones in with the older curriculum as well.
Totally.
Thank you all. A couple follow-up questions here regarding the payment, asking if it's $100 per month per family or per student. That is per student, $100 per month. So thank you for asking those follow-up questions. The next question here regarding the diagnostic testing, it's asked, is it the MAP or something custom, MAP?
We have looked into MAP and we're still kind of going back and forth on what our diagnostic testing tool is. We have a few that we're looking at. So if you want to talk more details about that, you can reach out and ask that question. But I'm not going to say that it's going to be MAP. But that's a good test. I'm not like against it or anything, but ours is probably going to be different. It's not going to be something that we've built though. It will be a product that we connect you with.
Thank you, Katie. Jacqueline asks if this is only for elementary. So this is geared for K through 8 students, but she also asked about special education. So would you mind speaking to that?
Yeah, so we just do K through 8 right now, but if you're doing private pay, there's not really any reason why you couldn't do it for a high schooler. All of our curriculum, like we do have curriculum choices that support through 12th grade. We just don't charter through 12th grade. So you'd have to adapt some of the things. They would need to be more age appropriate, and we will be building high school in the future. We're trying to really perfect K through 8 before we move on to doing that, but you can totally look for Prenda High School in the future. What was the last part of that question?
Special education.
Oh, yeah. So if you are enrolled in our with our charter partner, excuse me, they will provide special education services, speech therapy, occupational therapy, access to special education teachers, all remotely. And we'll do student study programs and work with you in any way that we can to support you and your kids and to get them the tools that they need. We have a whole special education team as part of Prenda that's built to work with parents and guides to help get these kids access to the tools that they need. I will say that the whole Prenda model supports like a lot of the things that you would normally seek for accommodations or interventions on an IEP are kind of inherently built into the Prenda model for all kids, but you do have access to that line of help if you're chartered. And then for private pay options, we wouldn't fund those therapies, but our special education team would totally work with you to counsel you on maybe what tools, what programs, what accommodations to make. We just wouldn't fund any therapies.
Thank you. We might need some clarification on this, but I'll see if you all can answer it better than I could. It's asked, can you clarify what the in-person classroom hours are along with homeschool hours?
Sure. So it gets kind of confusing. So if you are charter funded, then the state has certain requirements for how many hours you spend doing education. And so the hours breakdown are meant to meet those requirements. And you can spread them out, and you don't have to do them all from 9 to noon. You can spread them out during the day. There's a lot of flexibility there. If you are private, we encourage you to set a schedule to log your hours as kind of like a self-accountability measure to make sure that you're doing school every day. Because sometimes I know in my own homeschool journey, I've had phases where life gets busy and I just kind of let school fall to the wayside almost, and then we pick it back up and get back at it, and that's totally fine. But it's great to have an accountability piece, so you're really seeing that your kids are spending enough time learning to see progress. And in other states, what we're talking about with homeschool hours is that some states have, so the hours that we've discussed tonight are specifically from the state of Arizona. So if you're in a different state and they have different hours, you will need to find out what those hours are and to match what your family does to meet those expectations. I hope that clarified enough.
And we don't expect it being grossly different either. You know,
Yeah.
that's usually the norm. The hours that we showed, the 20 to 25 hours is pretty normal. But you should check your own state's homeschooling laws just to verify.
Thank you. Emily asked a good question. She asked, how does Prenda Family work if you have children that fall in both age groups, assuming the K2 and the 3rd through 8th?
Anna, do you want to speak to this one?
Sure. The way it works is you figure it out as you go. That's what we have done. And it can be a little bit tricky. We found that Conquer was not a big deal because the older kids were working pretty independently, and the younger ones you can focus more on. Some of the activities are a little bit tricky when you have a large age range, but you can modify those to find something that works for you. Also, like Katie had mentioned earlier, we've talked about forming co-op type groups or collaboration groups with others in your area or others in the Prenda community. And in that case, sometimes you can, not all the time, obviously, because it's still Prenda Family, but you could spend time with other families that have kids kind of the same ages and have the older ones collaborate while the younger ones are collaborating. There are ways to work it out.
Yeah, and you can also do like a buddy system. Like you could, if you're going to do a history exploration and the job is to like research some invention or something like that, and I have a 7th grader and I have a 6-year-old, I could have them work together on that and have the 7th grader drive and like type and read and like ask the 6-year-old questions about what they think and kind of bring them along on that journey. But maybe the 6-year-old wouldn't be driving that. So I love pairing older and younger siblings together to accomplish things.
And on a deeper level, I think there's deeper lessons being taught there. You know, the older sibling will learn what leadership is, you know, that you take the younger one under their wing, you look at them, you listen to their point of view, so there's deeper character building that happens when you do that buddy system as well. So don't feel like they're losing out. They're almost gaining something more and deeper.
Thank you to all 3 of you. A question was asked about swapping out curriculum programs in math and language. And they asked, would we consider updating our software to allow for customization? I think, Katie, you touched on that a little bit, but do you mind speaking to that again?
Yep, totally already in the works. So if you're charter funded, we're a little bit pickier about what curriculum you use, but totally open for discussion. I talked to lots of parents about using different things and we can make accommodations based around certain parameters. We can give you a lot more flexibility than we give Prenda micro schools because you have the capacity to give an individual lesson, whereas we don't ask that of guides. So there are some differences that happen just because you don't have so many kids and you maybe probably have the time to sit with them and coach them a little bit even more than they would get in a micro school. And so I'm happy to have those conversations. And we are definitely building into the software like a customized goal where you can put in, especially for the private pay model, like you could put in absolutely anything into the Conquer page. That's our goal.
Thank you. There was a question regarding Prenda at Home and more information, or what is it called now? That is what we're speaking about, Prenda Family now. Kitty touched on that we did develop Prenda at Home earlier during COVID, during this past school year, but that is now part of Prenda Family. So this would be the information regarding that. Heidi asked a question I can relate to. She says, does Prenda help come up with ideas for create and collaborate for uncreative parents?
Yeah, it's all built for you. In Prenda world, all of the collaborate patterns are already in there. We train you on them. We teach you how to teach them to your kids. We teach them directly to your kids. There's all of that training in there, so you don't have to think of anything. And then like we talked about, like the actual topics and content of that is all child driven. So you just figure out these 8 activities that are super simple and help your kids fill them with their interests. And then for Create, we have an extensive project-based learning library that your kids can access independently, choose their own project, figure out what materials they need, and move through all the requirements for that project. So you don't have to invent anything.
Thank you. Another good question here. They ask, if we wanted to set up a homeschool co-op for group activities and hire a third-party guide to run those, would the third-party guide be able to access the Prenda training as well?
But I don't think we've ever had that happen, but I'm going to go ahead and say yes.
All right. Next question here is regarding charter partner for special education as they're looking for a school for their daughter. Any difference in the charter partner there?
None. Everything is kind of governed by state and federal laws, and we're in alignment with all of those things. So essentially the same thing as if you were in a brick and mortar public school, you would have access to. But the therapies and things are remote, typically.
Also, in Arizona, there are a couple of different options for that. We have the charter partner or ESA funding. Both are accepted by Prenda, and we work with both of those.
Great, thank you. Next question here is, how do we have connection with the Prenda family community?
Great question. So as soon as you get started with Prenda, you'll get access to Prenda World, our software. So your kids are going to access Prenda World, but then you have a parent guide view where you can kind of curate their Conquer activities, help them set their goals, and see their activities, kind of monitor them. So in that sign in, there's access to a thing called Slack, which is kind of like a forum framework where you can ask questions. The Prenda team will be on there. You can chat with all of the other families in there. We can even make channels or groups for different states or different cities, so you can connect to the people that are just around you. So there's lots of different ways you can connect, but it's through a program called Slack.
There's another thing that we've been working on also, that we are in the process of getting built. We are hoping to have a map soon where you could opt in to have yourself shown on this map, or to see other Prenda family schools that have opted in, where you can find other people in your area who are also doing Prenda family, and contact them and find a friend who wants to go to the park or go on field trips or whatever you would like to do.
Thank you, Anna. Next question here regarding some of the apps we use, like Prenda World, and if there's any way for them to see a demo of those apps.
Yeah, totally. I could show it, Tate. Do you?
If you've got it handy, why not?
Give me a second. I'll do the next question and I'll tell you when I'm ready.
Let me see here. The next one here regarding Prenda at Home, and Katie, you might know the answer to this, so sorry, or others. They're asking
ready.
if it will be available through the end of the summer.
Prenda
at Home, if they were using that from this past school year.
So it just ended June. Well, I guess we should technically let them use it until Prenda Family starts, because it would be weird to not do that. But it technically ended June 30th. But we're not like deleting any accounts or anything. Like, if you want to just take a break for a little bit, we're kind of just resetting the system, tweaking things a little bit, so we can't have people in there right now. But July 13th, it will be all ready for you to kind of have a new fresh start, access to the training and things like that. So, but we won't delete anyone's data. And I'm ready for that demo. I'll just 30 seconds click through it. So this is Prenda World. So when a student comes in here, they see Conquer, Collaborate, and Create. And when they go to Conquer, this is their goals page. So whatever tool that they're using would show up here, and they set a goal. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to click save. And then I click this and it takes me to that program. And then I do my work in that program, and then I come back and I click, I did it. And then it tells me great job. And they do that for language and for writing and for reading. There's all sorts of different things you can do in here. You can even set like a coding goal or foreign language, geography, graphic design, lots of different things you can work on in here if they're important to your child or to you as a parent. We're also building this out for the K2 program so that you can put things like handwriting or read, or you can customize it for the younger kids too. And then for create, this is what our project-based learning library looks like. So these would be finished projects. And then if I want to add a new project, I would go here and say, I would like to do an invent project. So then I would choose one of these projects, and this is the instructions. I would submit any kind of media. If I did a video or a PowerPoint presentation, or wrote an essay or a story or something like that, I would add it here, and then I'd click save. And then, oops, well, that didn't work. There we go. No idea what I just clicked on. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing now. But that was just essentially what it looks like. So I hope that helped. Short demo. There's more demos that you can find, but it's a quick look.
Thank you, Katie. Emily asked regarding parent prep time and how much prep time is required before jumping into the school days.
Anna can speak to this. You guys can say what happens in your school, how much time you spend prepping.
Generally, not very much. Mostly, if you want, you'll want to pick a science project ahead of time to make sure you have the materials for it. Generally, they're very simple, easy to find things like paper clips and 3x5 cards. Basic. But if you're like me, you don't always have paper clips and 3x5 cards around, so you want to make sure that you have what you need. Otherwise, it's really not much. Most of the time that I put in was for planning our schedule and figuring out what would work best for us, and then doing it. But there is the training ahead of time. The training takes a week or a couple of weeks before you actually start with your class. But as far as day-to-day prep work, it's really minimal. Most things are provided for you.
A big difference between this and normal homeschooling is that the typical homeschooling curriculum, even if you're using something that's called an open and go curriculum, where like you just have to open the page and like everything you need is there, you're still sitting there reading the paragraph, making sure your child does it, reading them another paragraph, making sure your child does it, like this back and forth and so typically for most homeschool preparation, like the night before, you'll want to go through and read all of that stuff and make sure you know what they're learning and plan activities around that. All of our academics, because we use the power of technology, all of that is done on the computer. So this, instead of doing the lessons, you become kind of like a data scientist almost, where you go into their account and you can see their progress and what they're working on, specifically like what grammar principles they're working on. And then the computer will give you a little flag, like if they're stuck, then you click on the little flag and then it shows like you should give this lesson to your child now because they're stuck. And the way that most of our computer programs work is they'll present a concept, and then if the child gets it wrong, they'll simplify it. And then if the child still gets it wrong, then they will give a lesson. And then after the lesson is given, then they'll put the child back into that simplified and then more complicated. And so if a child's stuck and they're not understanding, sometimes the computer's not explaining it right or something like that, it's not clicking with the student for some reason, they'll get into this loop of like, lesson, try it, lesson, try it. And as soon as they go through that cycle, like 2 or 3 times, that flag is triggered, like, whatever I'm trying to do as the computer is not working. And so a loving, caring adult needs to intervene here. But that it makes it really easy for you to see like, okay, now here's your paragraph and here's your activity that's already planned for you. And they're like 5 or 10 minutes, like, so you can sit down and kind of talk through that, and then they can try again on the computer. But that's all planned for you. And what specific topics your child needs is like just given to you right there in the program. There's also lots of things built into these programs for extra practice. So if you're noticing like they might have passed it in the program, but then you're doing a math application puzzle and they're like having a hard time using that information, they need more practice, you can go back into this program and kind of get like a worksheet or like further activities so that they can kind of take their learning out of the computer and do a lot of like pencil paper activities and things like that to reinforce that they're learning. That was a huge tangent. Sorry, Tate.
All good information.
Did Emily have anything to add about that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something that's really helped with me. The idea of planning every day overwhelmed me personally. Like, it was so much better for me to have sort of a general idea of how my month was going to go. So like Mondays were going to be my nature study days. I have younger kids, so I'm thinking more like the K-2 program right now. But like Mondays, my collaborate was going to be nature study, and then we were going to do imagination station for create, which is where we do recyclables and create something, so that I would know generally on Mondays I should have these things ready. And then like Tuesdays, okay, Tuesdays are poetry tea time and, you know, composer study. So then in my mind, I'm like, okay, Tuesdays, this is what I generally need to have ready. So for me, it was helpful to have just like a general flow for the month, so that I know what to expect. I'm not always constantly trying to recreate every day. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Something that works great.
Too. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're good. Something that works great is involving your kids in that planning, because that helps their prefrontal cortex develop the ability to project into time and to make a plan for their future self and to be organized and accountable. And part of the process, like as a parent, this is a huge opportunity you have to incorporate your child into and give them choice and autonomy. So you might sit down with them at the beginning of the school year and say like, okay, let's make a collaborate like schedule. Like, what do you want to do on Mondays and Tuesdays, and help them be part of that conversation. And then instead of saying, okay, it's collaborate time, like we're going to do this, you can just ask them, I think it's collaborate time. Like, what do we have on the schedule today? And give your child the task of like, oh, today's a history exploration, or today is poetry tea time. And then like work with them on like, hey, what is it going to be about? Like you're the question asker, not like the pusher, like this is what the plan is. Saves you a huge amount of time on planning.
And then something where you're also taught in training is to follow the child's curiosity. So if you touch on something in nature study, like if you see a spider and the child asks something like, what kind of spider is this? Instead of stopping your lesson and going, oh, we're done with nature study, it's time to move on. Like, throw the rest out the window. If your child asks a question and is interested to learn about that, like that's gold. That's what you're striving for. That's what you're wanting. So it's supposed to be very loose around the idea of if your kids get sparked on something they're interested in, like just throw the rest of the plan out the window and dive into it.
Thank you. A follow-up on this same subject or topic. Annalise asks, is there a way to view and plan ahead of time what they will be working on in the next week so they can supplement it with analog work? She says her son is super kinesthetic with his learning style.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't know how old this child is, but you could definitely do that for sure. Anytime they're like, you could go into the learning software and look at where they are and kind of look ahead and see their path. And then in most of our, like, if that's really important to you to like link analog and digital, which I think is super, super powerful and huge, there are certain online tools that I would choose over other ones. So as you go through training, we can help you understand, like, this is a really easy, like when I was doing this math program with my kids, this one's called Zern. It's really great. I would go through in my parent, like where you can see your class in Zern, and I would print out all of the missions or lessons, which have like for the whole, so it would be like a month's worth of hands-on like worksheet type things that match what my child's going to be moving through in the next few weeks. And so he just has like a packet, and he knows that he's going to do an online lesson, whatever that online lesson walks him through, whatever manipulative games it's going to play on the computer. And then after that, he's going to close the computer and he's going to do the same thing, paper and pencil. And that's easy to facilitate.
Thank you. Bethany asks, what if we start this and it's not working for our family? Is there a way to trial before committing financially to the program?
We would just ask that you do financially commit, and then we will give you a refund. Super easy.
Yes, we believe strongly in the program, but please let us know if you have any issues or concerns with it. Ashley asked, where can they find more demos? I would say check our YouTube channel where we're always uploading and creating more. You can find some past ones, same with our website. So follow us. We're always trying to put out more. But if you'd like to see demos as well as you are working with us, please let us know. Anything else to add there?
I would say the parent team is working on some good parent information. If you want to have demos for like Lexia or Dreambox or our curriculum software, if you can actually get lots of really great demos on their website. If you want to see what their the interface looks like, they'll take you through it. That's all available there on those websites.
And we're redoing the website right now, but soon there will be links and like lists of the things that we recommend our learning tools, so you can easily see what they are. And it's just we're always expanding that list, so we don't want to get set on like, well, this is the curriculum. If this doesn't work for you, Prenda's not for you. Like, there's always an answer. There's always an option. We want to be flexible, so there's lots of choices.
Thank you. Another great question here from Annalise. She asked, do you have means to share projects virtually, like a virtual science fair, so students can share their work in some sort of virtual library?
Yeah, so we talked about the Prenda Showcase, so you can get anything except, like, you can submit to that and get it accepted. That's one way. We also, before COVID, would have end of semester and end of year events called Prenda Palooza or Prenda Extravaganza, where we have a big in-person event where you come and there's workshops that you can do, and there's like a talent show that you can perform at, and like you can have a booth and display science experiments or art that you've done, or you can like start a business and sell things at that booth. So we've done lots of things like that in person, and we are working on ways to adapt that to an online dimension while we can't meet in large groups.
Lisa asked, how long is the training?
So it's online, like you click through it and there's videos and explanations and activities that you do along the way. So you can move at your own pace. I can't tell you exactly how long it is. Typically people go through it in a week, and if you work on it for an hour or two each day, that's totally an estimate. And then, so we do an online training like that, but then we also do a live training where it's like 3 sessions, like 3 2-hour-long sessions on Zoom, where you are working with like a master guide, and you walk through the day and you demo all of the online tools, and you play them as a child, so you can understand what your children are going through, and maybe meeting some of those same frustrations that your children are going to meet, so that you can have some empathy. So there's an online piece, and then a live like video call piece to it too. But most people, like if you are excited to get going and want to start quickly, we run live trainings almost every week, but we're like building that out still. So I would say 2 weeks to be cautious, but you can do it faster if you want to.
Thank you. Daisy asked, what happens when we have technical issues?
Yep, so there's 2 things to do there. In Prenda World, you can either go to our community and pop on and see if any parents know the answer. Just like, hey, this isn't working for me, like any help. So you can get help from other parents. You can, if it's with a learning tool, you can actually just email that company and say, hey, this is not working, and use their support. Or you can also create like a ticket, like email us, and we can respond to you, like the Prenda team, and we'll also maybe chime in if you're having a hard time and you've put a message out for parents and no one knows, like we can chime in there too. We're especially into helping you and holding your hand all the way through training, because it can be overwhelming to jump into homeschooling, not know what you're doing, be learning about Prenda, a new philosophy, and all of these ed tech tools. It's a lot. So take your time learning it, and you are going to feel overwhelmed, but one of our core values is figure it out. And another one is learning over comfort. So just know that on the other side of that discomfort and that overwhelm is a lot of smooth sailing and good stuff. So it's worth it. And we're with you all the way.
Thank you. Tiffany's asking for some input, so I'll see if any of you have experience to share with her. She says, I have a kindergartner, 7th and 9th grader. What are Prenda families choosing to do with their older children? I would love to find a program that fosters a love of learning for my older child as well. Anything we've seen there in our experiences?
Anna, I'm looking at you.
Okay. Well, my oldest is 15, and he actually goes to our local high school, and it's been really good. But he also is really good at finding his own way to learn things outside of school. So it hasn't really been an issue for us. Currently, it was an issue before when he was younger, and it took a long time to get him to that place. But where he is now, he kind of just takes off and runs with his own projects all the time. I think we have some recommendations for different kinds of like online high school programs, etc. The biggest thing for me, I think, is just letting them get bored, because then they can, I don't know, I tell my kids that boredom is what comes before creativity. And if they want to do something creative, first they have to get bored and they have to push through it and not just give up and turn on a show or a game or something. So
yep, totally. There's a program that I will totally publicly recommend. It's called OutSchool. So this is like an online marketplace where you can go in and connect with online teachers that are teaching things that your kids are interested in. So there's like tons of teachers and tons of classes, and they can take classes from people who are super passionate about what they're teaching.
Thank you. A question here from Emily, and we were just talking about this one earlier today. She asked, would we recommend that each child have their own computer?
Yeah, so do you want to take this one, Emily?
Sure. I think it just depends on your family dynamic. What works for your family, what won't work for your family. We were saying that with Prenda at Home, we were seeing that, like, if it would, we had one child on a tablet doing the reading program while another one was on the computer doing another program. So if you have a few devices and you can make that work, that's great. If you would like to have each of your kids have their own device so that you can all do your Concord time at the same time, that's also an option. I just think it's very adaptable to your family situation and what would work best.
Yeah, and if you are charter funded, we do provide a computer for every single student, so that is taken care of. For Prenda, a private pay model, we ask that you provide your own device or use whatever devices you already have and kind of rotate through.
Thank you. All right, I think we got through all of the questions. Thank you all that watched and asked any questions. We love answering them. If you do have any more, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out through our social media profiles or through our website. And as we mentioned earlier, go to our website if you're interested in taking the next steps with Prenda Family. You can find ways to contact us and get involved there. But thank you for joining.
Thanks, guys.